thing is income inequality, and Bitcoin solves that. What's up, friends? Today, we're commemorating Dr. Martin Luther King. First of all, this is about the great things that he accomplished, and also today's episode is about Bitcoin. Bitcoin is equality. Today on Hidden Secrets Revealed Live. The idea is simple. Every day, Monday through Friday, I go live for about 10 minutes. I want to help you to look good, feel good, and smell good. I'm interested in increasing your health, wealth, success, your prosperity. My friends are watching behind the scenes right now. Instagram, Safe New Media, watching behind the scenes on Instagram at Safe New Media on Instagram. That's right. You can find me on Twitter at Sean Allen Fenn. I'm the founder of Safe New Media. This is brought to you by my new record. I'll get the sponsorships out of the way really quick. I have a few things that I stand behind. Number one is the record. I'm going to play you a commercial for that now. Okay, I'm going to play you a commercial for that now. Hang on. In the last days, divisions apart from the love cascade. Motives bred with a mark of Cain, apart from the love cascade. All right, got some new friends watching behind the scenes on Instagram. Appreciate you guys watching. Other quick sponsors or quick things that I stand behind. There's a link in the description if you're watching on YouTube and I think on LinkedIn. If you are a business that would benefit from getting double your ideal customers in half the time, click the link in the description for Pipeline Communications. Pipeline is a digital marketing agency, full service digital marketing agency that I work with. If that's not you, then don't worry about it, because I also recommend, if you are not yet making money while you sleep, one way to do that, you guys, you have to make money while you sleep. If you don't find a way to make your money work for you, you're never going to make it. You're not going to make it. So one way to do it is through e-commerce. By now, you should have something you're selling online. Shopify is a great way to do that. Amazon is good too. You might as well do both. But if you need help with Shopify, I have a link in the description. Get started with Shopify. Start your e-com empire. I also recommend that you eliminate brain fog. Eliminate brain fog. Do it now. Your life's too short not to think clearly. Use effing focus. This has helped me out tremendously. I stand behind it. It's excellent product, supplements, nootropics. It's a brain enhancing supplement. It is possible to use 100% of your brain. You can use 100% of your brain. It's a myth that we use 10% of our brains. Sometimes I use less. Sometimes I use more. Usually I use more when I'm paying attention. When I use effing focus, I use my full brain capacity, and you can too. I also recommend Visible is the phone service, the best mobile phone service in my opinion. Visible, there's a link in the description for Visible. They're on the Verizon network. They are the best. Very easy to get started. $5. You can't go wrong. Try it out for $5. It's so good. The problem I had with most cell phone is actually the service is one thing. Reliable service is one thing, and Visible has always had reliable service. And I've only been using them for a couple of years, but it's always been reliable, and it's never gone down. Um, well, once it was kind of a little bit shaky, but it was my fault. Too long of a story. Anyway, but what I like about them the most is they're so easy to use. It's all automated. You don't have to go into some store and talk to some 16-year-old kid with acne who is working for minimum wage and doesn't really care. You've been there. You've gone to any kind of retail place, and there's always a kid. You've always encountered a kid who just doesn't care. Like, they're getting paid minimum wage. They don't have any skin in the game. They don't have any incentive to make your life better. They're just doing what they're told. That's all done. That's all a thing of the past now. We are in a new era where we can do anything and everything online. We can be in the metaverse if we want. And this is a new era of digital and magic internet money. That's what today's episode is about. But before I get into that, I want to talk about how great Martin Luther King was, and principles of Martin Luther King, that there are many things that he said that meant a lot to us and changed the course of our society. What I'm going to express right now is, I didn't come up with it. I got to give credit where credit's due. This was pointed out by someone who I respect, named Ray Dalio, who pointed out these 6 principles of Dr. Martin Luther King. Number 1, hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Number 2, we must either learn to live together as brothers, or we are all going to perish together as fools. Number 3, an individual has not started living fully until they can rise above the narrow confines of individualistic concerns to the broader concerns of humanity. Number 4, every person must decide at some point whether they will walk in light of creative altruism. Creative altruism, that means, if I can just interject just a minute, total altruism is not helpful. If you're completely, totally altruistic and you do nothing for yourself, that is not going to help you. But creative altruism is creatively finding ways to help your fellow human being. Not forgetting about yourself, not neglecting yourself, but finding creative ways to help others. Creative altruism, or I got to rephrase the whole thing. Every person must decide at some point whether they will walk in light of creative altruism or in the darkness of destructive selfishness. Destructive selfishness. Once again, Martin Luther King was amazing because he made this distinction. There is a such thing as good selfishness, that is just self-care, that is taking care of yourself. But destructive selfishness, you all know what that is. That is typical. When you think of selfishness, the sort of derogatory connotation of the word selfish means it's destructive. We're not here to destroy, we're here to build up. Number 5, this is one of the principles of, these are 6 principles of Dr. Martin Luther King as illuminated by Ray Dalio, who I respect. Number 5, the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. Number 6, this is no time for apathy or complacency. This is a time for vigorous and positive action. Thank you, Dr. Martin Luther King, for all that you've done for our society to help us advance as a society. So today on Hidden Secrets Revealed Live, that is the live stream that you are watching right now, or if you're watching this later, because I'll post it on Facebook later. If you're watching later, this is Hidden Secrets Revealed Live. I'm your host, Sean Allen Fenn. I'm the founder of Safe New Media. Just a little quick description. Okay, Hidden Secrets Revealed Live is a production of Safe New Media, unconventional, diversified, global digital media company devoted to the practice, administration, and dissemination of the ideologies. Ideologies. The ideology. The ideolo. Why can't I say this word? Ideologies. Ideologies of me, yours truly, Sean Allen Fenn. That took me a long time to say ideologies. Ideologies. Ah, that's a funny word. It is definitely not a cult, no matter what you've heard. Okay. Okay, so that's why we're here. So today, Canadian politician Pierre Poilievre. First I couldn't say ideologies. Now I can't pronounce this Canadian politician's last name. Poilievre. Pierre Poilievre. He delivered a great answer to this question. What is money? Okay, we're going long today. We're going to have a longer episode by several minutes because I have to play this for you because it's really good. Okay, I'm sorry, my friends watching behind the scenes on Instagram can't see this, but you could always, if you want to, go to LinkedIn or YouTube or Twitch. So I'm going to play this whole video. What is money? This is Pierre Poilievre.
Money, of course, is merely a technology by which we transport value over time and space. And without it, our species would have to consume in the present everything that it produces. Most species do. They have to eat what they kill right away, lest it be stolen or spoiled. Sure, squirrels can squirrel away a little bit, a good habit the government should learn from, but most species have to use it or lose it. We developed a technology that would allow two people who are exchanging things to go ahead with their exchange even if each did not have the ability to supply the other with something that the other wanted. They could simply use this technology called money in order to transport the value between each other across time and around different geographies. And so over time, money has taken many forms. In one South Pacific island, it was just a ledger carved on scarce limestone. In some places, it's been beads or seashells. In prisons, they use cigarettes. In school, they used to use candy when I was a kid. Throughout history, it became metal, some precious, some brute. We had gold, we had silver, we had copper. Many different means of translating value across space and time have been used. But politicians have found it a nuisance to pay their bills using money with integrity. You know, because back in 1215, poor old King John was forced by the barons and the commoners to sign this nuisance of a document called the Magna Carta, the Great Charter. And in that document was inscribed the principle that the Crown could not tax what the people had not approved. And that principle is still in place here in this Parliament today. Government can't spend what we don't vote on 800 years later. And you look around and see the beautiful green here. You know where that comes from, of course. It's because that was the color of the fields in which King John was made low. And that green should remind everyone that the people in the fields who are actually doing the work, they're the ones that produce the money that we spend around here. That might have been a better answer in the committee than a government's broader macroeconomic framework, Mr. Speaker. But I digress. But you see what happened after King John was prevented from going on taxing what people had not approved. He was forced to go back to the commoners to get their permission to take their money. He and his successors would become increasingly creative in sourcing the cash that they acquired. Years later, King Henry VIII, who is more famous for clipping off the heads of his subjects, decided that he could get his hands on money by clipping coins. He and his regime would clip off the edge of the coin, and that way they could melt those edges down and make more coins. And back then it was hard to make coins because it was the British pound, which was a pound of silver. And by clipping off a piece, you could melt it down and create more coins, and John could inflate the value of currency in his hands, thereby deflating the value of the wages that his peasant class earned. He got even more creative later on, and this is how he got his famous nickname. He would actually have his minters melt down the British pound, and he would re-mint it with just a tiny coat of silver around the outside of a copper coin. So people would think they were getting a silver coin. Meanwhile, on the inside, what they actually got was copper. The problem is, being the egomaniac that he was, facing outward from the coin, he didn't want a profile shot. His face was on the coin, and it stared everyone in the eye when they looked at that coin. But his nose protruded the farthest out, and when it was in people's pockets, it would rub against the inside of the pocket, and the silver would scrape off the tip of his nose, meaning that you have a silver coin with a red nose, and thus he got the nickname Old Copper Nose. And every time someone saw that red copper nose, they knew the king had stolen the real value of their money. Throughout time, other politicians have found other creative ways. The dictator Dionysius, who was a Greek dictator in Syracuse, he actually took all the coins, the 1 drachma coins, and he stamped them with a 2. So all of a sudden he had twice as much money. Now I hesitate to tell that story in this House because I worry that this Prime Minister might think that he could do the same. You know, if you run out of money, if you run out of money, he'll say, you can always get more. You'll turn loonies to toonies and toonies to fours. That might be the next creative idea by which government could get its hands on money. And throughout the 20th century, we saw this same tactic of cash creation in, of course, with the most famous example was in the early 1920s in Germany. They had created so many new units of account that inflation ran rapid out of control. You needed to have a wheelbarrow full of cash in order to buy a loaf of bread. And if you got to the bar to try and drink away your inflationary blues, you ordered all your beer at the beginning of the night because as the minutes went on, it became more expensive. And of course, we in this part of the world have not been immune to this inflationary disease ourselves. While in the post-war era, we inherited monstrous debts fighting the fascists, but governments had hard money from the end of the war until the early 70s. We basically operated on an American-led standard whereby you could, if you had a U.S. greenback, you could exchange it at a rate of $35 per ounce of gold. And in that period, of course, we had an enormous amount of prosperity. The Americans paid off their war debts here in Canada with solid currency. We wrestled the inflationary beast to the ground in the post-war era. We took our record debts that we inherited from the war. We paid them off. We increased the size of the Canadian economy by 300%. And by 1933, we had basically become a 1973, we had basically become a debt-free country. But then what happened in the 1970s? Well, President Nixon wanted to spend on warfare and welfare. Of course, the Americans were bogged down in Vietnam, which was costly an enterprise, and President Nixon wanted to keep his popularity at home, so he decided to spend. And in the decade that followed 1971, not only did they unleash the American dollar from any particular standard, but they increased the number of U.S. dollars in circulation by 150%, while output only grew by about 39%. In other words, the amount of money grew about 4 times faster than the amount of underlying output that money represented. Now, here in Canada, we had Pierre Elliott Trudeau, and he looked down at all the inflation that the U.S. government was creating. They had reached double-digit inflation down there, a total inflationary crisis. The American dollar was devalued on an international basis and, of course, was incapable of buying affordable petroleum on the world market. They liked to blame OPEC, but they took no responsibility for the fact that the unit with which they were buying oil on the international markets was itself devalued. So Trudeau says, he looks down at all the misery in the United States. He looked at how people were lined up at gas stations trying to wait for an hour and a half in order to gas up their cars. He saw the poverty that was overtaking inner city streets. He saw the expanding wealth gap in the United States of America. And what did Pierre Elliott Trudeau say to all that? He said, let's have some of that up here. And so he started printing some money here in Canada and massively increased the money supply with which Canada, I just have the data right here. Between 1971 and 1981, the money supply in Canada grew by over 200%, while GDP only grew in real terms by about 47%. So you can imagine, money is growing in supply at more than 4 times the rate as the economy is growing. So you have more dollars chasing fewer goods, and what do you get? Inflation. That's right. That is, we learned that, all of us, we learned that in grade school, but apparently some lessons need to be learned and relearned here in this House of Commons.
So Pierre Poilievre delivered a great answer to the question of what is money, a technology by which we transport value over time and space. Bitcoin fits that definition, as does cryptocurrency in general. Unlike fiat, Bitcoin is not manipulated by any government. When the Fed prints more cash, Bitcoin has no inflation. It is unaffected by demand. When the price goes up or down, the Bitcoin supply stays the same. Unlike gold, there is an absolute finite scarcity. Gold supplies double every 30 years. Historically, governments tend to seize gold from their citizens, even in the United States. Guess what? Bitcoin cannot be taken away. Sure, if you're in China, it can be made illegal, but it can't be taken away. Bitcoin cannot be controlled by central banks. Also, here in the free world, at least in a capitalist society, no one needs permission to buy Bitcoin. You don't have to be an accredited investor. You don't need a license to own this asset. Everyone can own Bitcoin. Bitcoin is equality. That's today's episode of Hidden Secrets Revealed. I appreciate you guys watching. I know it went a bit longer, but it was kind of important today. So smash that subscribe button, pummel that subscribe button into submission, like and share this, leave a comment. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching. I have spoken.